Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Explode Your Expert Biz show. Today, we are talking about the power of selling your story. If you ever thought about using your personal story to get more clients, to get more visibility, to be able to position yourself as an authority in the industry, today that's what we're going to talk about. So, in the next 15, 20 minutes, please take out pen and paper, your phone, and be focused on this incredible training because what it made me more than seven figures made from selling from the stage, selling from one-to-one clients, selling on webinars, because it's all about your story. Now let's talk about what creates, why is having your story, why is your story so powerful. Well, the power of selling your story is crucial, in particular because your story is what creates a connection with the audience. And the more connection you have with your audience, the more connection you have with your followers, the more connection you have with people that are hearing you speak, even if it is for the very first time, the more all of this, then the more sales you will make as well. And also, the more they will be inclined to work with you, to explore how you guys can work together. So, how do you then start selling your story, and how do you select in particular? Hey, Faye, thank you very much for watching. How do you select what parts of the story to tell? Because if you are like me, or if you are like a lot of my clients, you might be the kind of person that has a lot of interesting stories to share. It's not just about the one thing you have done in your life. You might have overcome a lot of different adversities in your life. So, how do you select the one that are relevant to your audience? Well, it's really important to understand this first. So, how do you do that? Well, first of all, is to check in with your audience and to understand where are they in their journey, right? So, always start from your audience. Where are they in their journey? What kind of things are they struggling with? What are their desires? What are their fears? What are their hopes? What are the things that keeps them awake at night? What are the things that they really want? And once you start answering those questions, then flip it and see in your journey. What are the parts of your story that can connect the most with the desires, with the aspirations, with the things that your audience actually is going through, and in particular that your audience wants? Now, if you do this, I promise, there will never be a moment where you will feel like you don't have a connection with the audience. Actually, you will see the audience leaning forward. You will see the audience nodding their heads. You will see the audience immediately switching off their phones and paying attention to what you're saying. All of this because you are focusing on sharing what's important, what's connecting you with the audience. Now, if you're watching this, please share it. I would really appreciate it because there are a lot of people that can benefit. And if you're listening on the podcast, then thank you very much for listening. Make sure that you pick notes here, or then jump on a Facebook Live when I do them in the evening. You'll always be notified when I'm going to be live on a training before I repurpose it on the podcast. So that's one thing. Pick the parts that are relevant to your audience. So ask yourself a bunch of questions about your audience, and then share the things about your story that are more relevant with them. So that's number one. And then what are you going to do? That because that's not enough, right? That's not. This will create a connection, but also you need to start selling yourself. Now it's very difficult to get people to buy from you if they don't believe you, or if they just connect with you, but also they don't somehow look up to you, right? And the whole game is to have people to look up to you, right? Because that's what people buy. They buy a piece of you, right? They buy a piece of you. They buy something that something that they want, and you need to be that person who gives them the trust to say, hey, I've done this for myself, I've done this for my client, come and follow me, I'll get you there too. So how do you do that? Is in particular not be afraid of selling yourself. This is why we are talking about the power of selling your story, is not being afraid of selling yourself. So when you're talking about it, also make sure that at a certain point you share what is that makes you unique. What is that makes you great? What is that other people will what is that other people say about you? What are maybe publications or things that you have been featured on? What are maybe other interviews or podcasts that you had? What are parts of great results that you got for yourself? Because if you do, the moment you do that is the moment you deeply create an interest in your audience. So on with your story, they will connect with you, but also now they will trust you, they will believe you, they will want to buy from you because they see you as a credible source of those information, not just someone who can understand them, but someone who has been through their journey and have successfully been on the other side as well. So make sure that you think about what are the pieces of the puzzle, what are the where does your biggest power credibility comes from. Now, if you say, well, I don't have any credibility at all, then you know there is something you must focus on. You know there is something you must focus on in getting on publications, on bigger stages, on relevant magazines, on TV stations, on radio shows, on podcasts. Make it a must for you and your business to get out there and consistently get more and more media opportunities. The moment you do that is the moment where you not only will build a massive audience, a large audience organically, but also you will build credibility with your prospect clients. And these things can literally turn a I'm not sure if I want to work with you into, oh my God, I definitely want to work with you. So be aware of that. And then we are looking at the other part. So first of all, connect with your audience by sharing the parts of your story that are relevant with your audience. Then establish your credibility by sharing the great results you had for yourself, for your clients, for what other publications are saying about you, and what stages you've been on. Share that. If you don't have it yet, that's fine. Build it up and share what you have. Something is better than nothing. And then we are going into the next part. And then the next part, which is the third part of this process, of this power of selling your story, is talking about how do you sell that story? How do you share it? So now the words are not enough. Remember, words are not enough, are just a percentage of the entire communication process. So how you're sharing it, it will make a massive difference. And when you're talking about the how you're sharing it, in terms of your body language, your posture, your voice, there are a few things that you need to take care in consideration. Number one is the way you are dressed. Now, let's address this first. Because a lot of people will say, well, people will not have to judge me. They will just judge my content. No, listen. We are human beings. We are visuals first. Then we are visual first. And we make an assumption of the person that is in front of us. Literally, we make an assumption of the person is in front of us in a split of a second from the moment we see them. That's where we make our first assumption. So the way you're dressed is massively important. The way you carry yourself. Thank you very much, Faye. I'm really happy you're enjoying this webinar. And actually, this training. Actually, Faye, write down what you're doing so I can give you a shout out on our podcast. We have thousands of listeners every single episode here, so then we can give you a shout out. Now, the thing is here is about the way you're dressed. So make sure that you're dressed in a way that inspires trust and creates a connection with your audience. Now, if your audience is business owner and you're dressed like a hippie, it will unless they already your credibility is off the chart. So people come already to see you. They don't care about how you're dressed. But if it's the first time they see you, Hello, John Vanek. Shout out to Big John Vanek. John Vanek coaching. Make sure you check him out, guys. Now, when you are dress in a way that matches your audience belief and matches your audience system, matches your audience model of the word. So if they are business owners, dress smart. If they are hippies, if you dress smart and you are actually in a community talking about spirituality, you need to explain why you're dressing that way because they will not expect that. So make sure you're always dressed depending on what the belief system of the audience is, what the audience expects from you, what creates the biggest amount of connection, credibility, and trust with them. And then we are going to the next part, which is after you consider the way you're dressed, then you want to consider the way you are talking to people. And what I mean about that is your tone of voice, your pace, your uh, your the words that you're going to be using, how you're going to be using them. Because as well, if you talk, for example, very slow, and all the talk is incredibly slow, and you're sharing your story without adding some variety in there, people are going to fall asleep. Well, then, if you are sharing your story and you are sharing and you're giving the talk 1,000 miles an hour and you're saying, I was doing this and I was doing that and I was doing the other thing and I was doing that, the other thing, and last day I was. And then they will feel that they cannot follow you. Then again, they will create a massive disconnect. So use a tone of voice which is a pace, which is create some variety. So you will have moments where you will talk faster, and you will have moments where you will slow down and talk slower and get people to really absorb the message that you are sharing in that moment. You need to keep their attention in that way. And then there is another thing that you need to take care of, which is your pitch. Are you talking with a very deep tone of voice? Or are you talking with a very squeaky voice? Right? So think about what is your tone of voice. And I remember I had to work quite hard on my voice to make sure that it wasn't high pitch all the time, because I could actually talk for a long period of time with this tone of voice. And you can understand how frustrating after half an hour this could be for people. So then now I'm toning it down, or I'm going a deeper tone of voice. And then using the higher one only when I want to make a certain point. That's important. Then we have another part which is crucial, talking about sharing your story. And that's your body language. How are you positioning yourself on the stage? Or even there on the webinar. But if you're looking at video, I'm moving my hands. Apart from one, which I'm inviting people to watch this live, but I'm moving my hands, or the hands that I have free. I'm moving my head. I'm using facial expressions. And that's crucial as well as everything else. And I know some of you that are more experienced, now they will start thinking, okay, how can I use all these elements together? And there are some of you that are starting out at the moment, they are thinking, oh my God, what, really? I need to take care about all these things all at the same time? You don't need to overwhelm yourself. We all started somewhere. So if you know that, for example, your biggest limitation when you're sharing your story, when you're communicating, is the tone of your voice, just work on that. Forget the rest. For example, I'm now doing a stand-up comedy training, right? And I'm doing this stand-up comedy training. It's very challenging. Now I'm raising money for cancer research, and I will do a stand-up comedy comedy skit at the end of the training. So I will do a live show. And I know that one of the things that I have as one of the problems that I have for me as a speaker is that most of the time I speak too fast. So what I need to be conscious when I'm doing my punchlines or when I'm doing my jokes is the way I'm talking, how fast I'm talking. Do I allow the audience enough time to absorb the message I want to share, to get ready for the punchline? And that's something I've realized I need to improve. Then I realized also that I need to improve the selection of my material. What actually am I going to talk about? That's something I need to improve, because I realized that based on the feedback that a lot of people gave me, that there was too much fluff and literally a joke that I was dragging on for 2 to 3 minutes could literally be delivered in 10 to 15 seconds. So I got 2 minutes of material that are irrelevant to the laugh that I want to generate. So now I know that on one time I'm only going to be focused on my speed, and the other time I'm only going to be focused on the joke itself. That's how I can improve, and that's how you can improve. Oh, thank you very much, everyone who is listening. Amazing Angel, thank you very much for joining. Shout out to Amazing Angel. Shout out to Face. Shout out to John Vanek. Thank you for joining. What I would love to know from you is what was your biggest learning from this live that I did so far? So let me know. I'm really curious. What was your biggest learning? Write it down here in the comment, guys. And if you're listening to the podcast, because you're listening to the replay or the podcast, or you're watching this on YouTube, then think about this. What's your biggest learning? What is the thing that you're going to do right now that you know what you know now? Because it's true, your story is powerful. So if you're able to combine the right information in your story, so what are the right things, what is the right message that you want they're going to share to connect with the audience in front of you, then the way you are going to say it, your positioning, so what are you going to share to create trust and credibility in your audience, and then as well, what are you going to share when you're going to how you're going to share it, your tone of voice, your body language, the way you're dressed, everything plays a huge part for people saying, I'm comfortable now investing with you. I'm comfortable now spending some money with you. And that's why you should focus on that. So I think you are on the same page, guys. I'm actually delivering a course called The Power of Selling Your Story on the 23rd of June with my good friend Daniela Blackner from Conscious Dream Publishing. We are actually going to deliver an entire workshop for an entire day on the power of selling your story. We're going to help you identify what parts of your story connect with the audience. We're going to identify what is your credibility and how to position yourself, and also how to deliver your message. And we are going to work in a very intimate room, maximum 20 to 30 people on this factor. So there is the link here in the show notes. There is the link here on the Facebook Live. You can get your ticket, your early bird ticket right now. The event is on the 23rd of June. It's going to be a full day event with Conscious Dream Publishing and Daniela Blackner. In particular, if you want to position yourself as an authority, use your story to position yourself as an authority, and follow and create this structure that we have done. Come along to the workshop. Is going to be mind blowing and is also incredibly affordable as well. So it's not going to be in the thousands of pounds like we do a lot of our training. It's not going to be even in the hundreds of pounds like we do in a lot of other trainings. So make sure that you get your ticket 23rd of June. It's going to make a massive difference in the way you communicate your message. So that's going to be the power of selling your story. That's what we are going to be talking about. Let's check the biggest learnings that we have from John Vanek is getting the dress right. Don't be sloppy. Don't be sloppy, and dress for respect and empathy. Thank you very much, John Vanek. Check Vanek Life Coaching. You will find he's also publishing a new book. So John, make sure that you connect with John Vanek. Awesome coach, in particular with people with suffering from mental illness. He had this doing an incredible work here in the UK. So make sure that you connect with him, guys. And also, he's an amazing musician. He actually plays during our events as well. He released a new album recently. So big shout out to John Vanek and also everyone else who is watching. Guys, thank you very much for joining me on the live show. We're going to put this as well as we say on our podcast on YouTube. where you can watch the replay for all this in-depth training that we are doing. Today was about the power of selling your story. Make sure that you get out there, sell yourself, sell your story, because that's a important way to make sure you create deep connection with your clients, and as well you get more buyers and more people wanting to work with you. Thank you very much for listening, for watching, wherever you are at right now. And remember that together we grow exponentially. I'll see you next time. Ciao.